September 9th, 2005, Ball State University Daily News, Volume 85, Issue 14, Violators Named. Violators' names. Sanctions levied against 48 student athletes. 33 football players named in the investigation. Athletic Director Bubba Cunningham says department will continue to review records. Randell means football player no longer playing, transferred to Howard University in Washington, D.C. Ball State University officials released on Thursday the names of 48 student athletes who violated the NCAA's extra benefits rule by obtaining books that weren't required for their classes or by receiving books from other athletes. The violations, which involved 7 of Ball State's 18 sports, resulted in 61 total suspensions, and this might not be the end. On August 29th and August 30th, the NCAA enforcement staff visited campus and asked the athletic department to reopen and expand its investigation to include previous years. We're continuing to review all the records, Bubba Cunningham, athletics director now at North Carolina, said. Under NCAA Bylaw 15, institutions can provide financial aid to student athletes to cover the cost of required course-related books. Cunningham said each athlete gets the books he or she needs, then charges the books to the athletics department. The athlete must sign a receipt, and then when the whole process is complete, the bookstore sends a total bill to the athletics department. Cunningham said, in this case, we noticed some irregularities, so we started to investigate it just as part of our normal review, he said. Continues on page 3. Violators named. Textbooks. Violations cover 7 sports. 33 football players, 3 women's volleyball players, 2 men's tennis players, 2 softball players, 5 track and field players, 2 basketball players, men's basketball, and 1 gymnastics player. Early in May, the department identified 25 athletes who had violated the policy and 18 who were suspected have violated it, Cunningham said. Those 18, along with 2 others, were confirmed in late May or early June. In addition to those 45 athletes, 3 women's volleyball players were recently found to be in violation of the rule, as well bringing the total number of violations to 48. Everything we looked at in May had to do with buying required books for classes that weren't registered and receiving receiving books that weren't entitled to. Cunningham said the new bill findings, 2 of them were for purchases of recommended books as opposed to required books. Dave Land, director of the Compliance and Eligibility, would not comment and referred all questions to Cunningham. We've decided that we need 1 spokesman, Land said. Athletes, coaches, and other officials within the department are not allowed to speak about the violations or ongoing investigation, Cunningham said. When you have an ongoing review of your internal controls, it's best to have 1 single point of contact, he said. We're at one single point, and that's me. Cunningham said the athletics department has determined there are varying degrees of violations that occurred. Under the NCAA bylaw, athletes whose violations are $100 or less do not have to serve a suspension, provided they immediately repay the total to a charity of their choice. For violations from $100 to $300, athletes must sit out 10% of the season. For violations from $300 to $500, athletes must sit out 20% of their season. And violations of more than $500 require athletes to sit out at least 30% of their season, where I had to, if I would have stayed at Ball State, I would have had to sit out 7 games of my junior season. Cunningham couldn't say exactly how this interaction got by the athletics department. Every institution is responsible for creating an environment that compliant, and if you have the holes in that, which this is, then you're susceptible to evaluations by others, he said. We submitted what we found to the conference office. We submitted to the NCAA, so we've opened up everything for everyone to take a look at. The list released Thursday named 33 football players, 5 track and field athletes, and 3 women's volleyball players. It also includes 2 members from men's basketball, men's tennis, and softball, as well as one of the members of the gymnastics team. Other 33 football players, 19 athletes were served or have already served suspensions. 6 were immediately reinstated after repaying the total value, and 8 no longer remain with the team. Cunningham said that those no longer with the team still have to repay the costs, and the suspensions will follow them if they transfer. They ain't follow me at Howard. Defensive end Cortland Booker received the largest suspension at 4 games. Linebacker David Denham and Dante Smith, defensive end Amari Karoma, and quarterback Lavelle Mosley have all been suspended for 3 games. 4 football players will serve 2-game suspensions, and 10 will serve or have already served 1-game suspension. The suspensions do not have to be served consecutively. They will, the way safety of the team can be ensured, Cunningham said. For significant members, the NCAA lets you stagger them to provide for the safety of the players competing, he said. Sophomore Landon Adler of the men's basketball team will serve a 3-game suspension when the season begins on November 19th. Cunningham said that the athletics department gets frustrated, concerned, and disappointed when it makes mistakes, but is trying to work through the process. Rules compliance, not only NCAA rules, but institutional rules, state laws, federal law, all those things we're very, very concerned about. But on occasion, you make mistakes, he said.